if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. That really, really does a lot for us. Also, make sure you tick that notification bell to follow up on everything that we're doing. And if you're listening on any of the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever you like, click the subscribe button. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you leave a comment and rate us. We really love when y'all interact with us, and it helps us out a lot. Appreciate y'all.
And we showing everybody how to grow their confidence. One for all and gold like Donovan Gold. So we go
beyond the game, beyond the same. Changing the culture and the land. To the court, to the field, to the skates. Get the real from the game.
See, this is why I ask questions. I have to know these things. I remember there was one person. Actually, I was emceeing the OSBA, so the Ontario Scholastic Basketball Association. They had like the provincial tournament few years ago. Is basically prep teams, right? And there was one coach. He had a Greek last name. It was, I think it was Jim. It was, but like it's funny because like as I'm going through my notes and everything, and right before they go up, I go to my, hey coach, how do you say your last name? Is it Janopoulos? He's like, you sound Greek. That's exactly how it is. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yes, okay, I'm good. And so I'm announcing the starting lineup, and I'm like, coached by Coach Jimno Nup. I just butchered the entire thing. I was like, wow. I can't believe I did that. I was so upset, but you know what? It is what it is. We moved on. He just looked at me and kind of like, I'm like, I'm sorry, coach. I don't know what I did. I don't know how that happened, but it's here and now. We're done. Anyway, so yes, I'm happy. I'm not going to butcher your name. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Game podcast. This is the Leadership Academy, and I am excited to welcome on Justin Sourdif. Justin, how are you doing, bro?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm pretty good. We were just talking just a little bit before I started recording that I completely forgot we had this episode going, but I'm happy that we're here. I'm happy that we can actually have this conversation. It's been one in the making. I remember I reached out to you in January after hearing about you, probably in November. And then, but I'm happy that I reached out to you. I'm happy that we were able to connect, and happy to hear your story, because it's one that I think a lot of people need, can relate with, and can get a lot of insight from. So let's get going. But before we do that, I had a question for you, sir. Oh, okay. If you were not playing hockey, what is something that you would love to spend all your time doing?
So that's something I've kind of put a lot of thought into. I mean, if I could do something, I guess, besides hockey, I've always wanted to be a fireman. And it kind of has like that team mentality. Everybody's really close, living in the fire hall together. Yeah. There's a lot of, I guess, teamwork that's involved. You guys got to respond to car accidents, or, whether it's putting out fires, anything like that. I just really wanted to be a part of something like that if I, were to step away from the game, or if I was fortunate enough to have a career afterwards. I'd love to do something like that. And then, I have a lot of other hobbies on the side, but it's one of the main things.
What else do you do on the side?
I mean, I definitely love cycling. So cycling would be a big thing. I'd like to travel too, like to see a lot more of the world.
Okay. All right, going off of that, give me your top 3 destinations that you want to visit.
I would say number 1, I'd want to visit Switzerland. I heard it's a beautiful country. The mountains, kind of similar to BC in some spots, and I just love the culture over there. And I've only been to Europe once, and it was for hockey, so I wasn't able to kind of explore as much as I wanted to. And I'd probably say in other places, my mother's home country, Ghana. I haven't been back there, and I think just to experience the culture and meet some extended family members would be definitely something I feel I need to go and do. And third would
Ghana's a beautiful place.
No, I've heard lots of stories and pictures, so I definitely want to go back there. Then a third place would have to be Japan. That's so kind of one
Okay.
country in Asia that I'd want to go visit. I love
Mm-hmm.
sushi, so it's my favorite food, and
Yes.
what better place to eat some sushi than Japan? So
Exactly. Exactly. And on the side, like, I love anime, and I love just everything that has to do with anime. So like going to a place like Japan where it's huge. I want to experience, like you said, I want to experience the culture. I want to see the birthplace and the origin of anime. So that think that'd be really
yeah,
cool.
no, 100%.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, well, you gave us some little details about you, but I want to get to know you, Justin. Can you tell us a little bit about uh, who you are? What do you do? Why do you do it? We can get into that, and then kind of how you grew up a little bit.
Yeah, so just I guess to start from the beginning, I was born on the 24th of March, 2002, in Richmond, British Columbia. I was living there, I guess, with my parents for about a year, and then we ended up moving to Surrey. And I grew up there pretty much my whole life until I was about 16 when I had to move away from home, not too far. I moved to
Mm,
Tawasin, BC. But no,
mm-hmm,
before that, I mean, I've was so fortunate enough to have parents that really, they sacrificed a lot for me, financially,
mm-hmm,
time wise. My younger sister as well. She had to come on trips and whatnot as well, and sometimes she didn't necessarily want to, but it was that whole family sacrifice, and so I do owe a
yeah.
lot to them. I ended up having to actually move to Burnaby to play for a different team when I was a kid. Had to change schools, so that was a
Mm,
little difficult, but kind of, it was just the start of me kind of, I guess, growing into the person that I am today. Some hardships that I've
mm-hmm,
had to go through have kind of built me up as a person.
mm-hmm,
So I wouldn't change that for
mm-hmm.
anything.
Absolutely. Did you? Sorry, so you mentioned that you were 16 when you moved from home, right? When you guys left. Is that when you left Surrey? That when you left Richmond?
That's when I left Surrey. Yeah, so I
Okay.
lived pretty much. I've only known Surrey. I have family
Yeah.
that live in Richmond, so I'm pretty familiar with that city as well. I've spent a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time out there,
Okay.
but yeah, no,
Nice.
I lived there my whole life, and then at 16, I didn't have to move too far away. I moved to Tawas, and I was about a half
Mm-hmm.
hour away, but I
Mm-hmm.
was still living away from home, still in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and I was playing for the
Yeah.
Vancouver
Yeah.
Giants. So
Nice. Nice. Shout out Giants. Did you? What high school did you go to in Surrey?
I actually played for the Delta Hockey Academy, so I was actually going to school
Okay.
in Tawasin,
Okay.
but I was still living at
Mm.
home.
Okay. Okay. And then when you moved to Burnaby, did you? That's when you changed clubs, or change academies, or change schools?
I had to change schools. Backtracking a little bit, I believe I was 10 years old, and I had to move to Burnaby. So my mother and sister were still living back in Surrey, and I lived in Burnaby with my dad.
Mm. Okay.
And it was, I kind of had to do it because in order to play for that team, I had to live there. And so I
Yeah.
went to
Yeah.
school in Burnaby in grade five, completely new school, but
Nice.
you know, uh,
Mm.
it was a little bit of an adjustment, but in the end, I ended up having a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. I mean, I know how hard it is to move from school to school, from city to city, because like even though you're all in the in BC and all kind of in the same ish area, cultures are still very different. The personalities and kind of the environment you're in is very different. So it definitely takes a while to adjust to that. If you could throw it back a little bit, can you kind of describe how you adjusted to moving around so much?
Uh, I think, I leaned a lot on my dad there.
Mm-hmm.
He really did a lot for me. I guess when we're kind of living there by ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
it was really tough on my mom as well. I'm
Mm-hmm.
10 years
Mm-hmm.
old, and your son's living away from home, and you may only get to see
Mm-hmm.
him once a week, so it was pretty difficult for her
Mm-hmm.
as well, and I think it was just kind of the start. I guess as a 10-year-old, you don't really think too much about it. But
Mm-hmm.
as time goes on, you learn how to deal with these sorts of things, and you kind of realize that being out of your comfort zone at an early age definitely helps you later on down the line.
It absolutely does. It really, really does. Okay. All right. Well, let's jump ahead a little bit now. You play hockey for the Charlotte Checkers,
Yeah.
right? That's awesome. So that is the farm team, the development team for the Florida Panthers of the NHL. So you are you're there with all the players who are trying to kind of take that next step into the quote unquote big leagues. But truthfully, you are living a dream that a small percentage of people can say that they are doing or they have been able to do. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Okay. So tell me, how did he get into hockey? Why did he get into hockey?
So my dad actually told me the story. I don't remember it because I was so young, but I think I was probably about like 3 or 4 years old, and this was in my neighborhood, and I'm not sure if we were driving by or walking by, but I think there was a group of kids, they're probably around 14 or 15, he said, and they were playing road hockey. And so I think we were walking, and I just stopped walking, and I couldn't take my eyes off of it apparently. And we were watching for probably about a half hour, and my dad finally said, okay, we gotta go. And I was pretty upset, and then he kind of realized, wow, he really likes this. So from there, I ended up taking skating lessons, and I didn't actually end up starting hockey until I was about 6. So it wasn't until 2 years later.
Okay.
And I wasn't very good to start off. I wasn't the best skater. I had these big, thick glasses on the ice, and they would fog up.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was pretty funny, but eventually I started to kind of get the hang of it, and I got a little bit better. And I think the reason why they sacrificed so much is they saw how much I love the sport. And so they wanted to do everything they could for me to, achieve, I guess, my goals of one day playing in the NHL. And so that's probably, I guess, where it started. So I started playing organized hockey around 6 years old, and I started off in Surrey Minor there. And I guess that was the beginning of my journey.
Okay. And that's awesome that you were drawn to it at an early age. Did you have people that you kind of looked up to in the sport that kind of drew you closer, that made you want to achieve bigger and better things?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of one of the first people in my family, I guess, to really play hockey. I guess my dad, he'd watched a lot. He grew up in a small town in British Columbia where they didn't even have an ice rink. It was just on the coast. And so he knew a lot about hockey, never played, but I was able to kind of lean on him for advice growing up. And, getting pointers from him and family members. Just growing up in Canada, everybody knows, a little bit about hockey. And I guess I just kind of took it from there. I had idols, obviously, like Alexander Ovechkin was one of my favorites growing up. I remember I was fortunate enough to get an Ovechkin jersey from a close family friend who was one of my coaches. Awesome. And it was really awesome.
Okay. Well, now the question that kind of pops into my mind now is for audio listeners, Justin is a minority. And I know for a fact, growing up, for me at least, as a black kid, black kids don't really play hockey. Black kids don't skate. This is not the culture that we're in, right? And so it's very easy for someone like us who step into this culture to not feel welcome or to feel ostracized or to feel kind of made fun of or put down by people that look like us. Right. Everybody wants to be a rapper. Everybody wants to be a basketball player or a football player. But you said, no, I want to play hockey. One, I think that's amazing. I think that that mental toughness to ignore the voices of people that are seemingly supposed to be your people, is incredibly difficult. But to be able to do that is incredibly uplifting and life-giving. And I think that's a testament in it of itself, to be able to do that and to kind of show that kind of strength. How did you go ahead and do that? How did you kind of ignore the outside noise, truthfully, because that's what it is? Because people just like to hate for no reason. People like to just be angry for no reason, and pursue something that you truly loved.
I mean, I think it was just my love for the game kind of overshadowed anything. I was the kind of kid that I just wasn't going to let anything kind of get in my way of, doing what I love. I guess with all the outside noise, my mom really helped me in that aspect. She helped kind of desensitize me to, any sort of kind of outside noise. And, growing up, it's tough, you're obviously going to experience some sort of maybe a little bit of racism at some point, but I've been pretty fortunate enough that I haven't had many incidents, only a few. There's, other, I guess, black players that have played in the NHL already, and they've kind of broken down those barriers. And so it's definitely achievable. And that's kind of why I wasn't really too focused on any of that. I was like, if these guys can do it, I can do it as well. And, I've been very fortunate as well to have, very close friends and teammates around who, would definitely stick up for me if anything like that happened.
That's so important. It's also, it's community and having people that we can rely on. I think it's huge, because it goes such a long way to keeping your mental sanity in place, right? Okay. Well, thank you for that. Let's talk about leadership. What is your definition of leadership?
I think my definition of leadership is, there's a lot of new faces you meet every year you play, a sport. The team's usually never the same. There's pieces being brought in, guys, switching teams. And I think it's just every person that I meet, I treat with the respect that I would want if I was joining a new team, and just trying to get to know the person as best as you can. I think that's the biggest thing, is just being a great teammate, being a great person, and, just trying to uplift people as much as possible, as being a true leader, and also working as hard as you can. Because one thing people hate is, somebody who kind of is a hypocrite, I guess you could say. They're telling other people to work hard and they're not really working hard. So leading by example with your work ethic and respect, I think, is the definition of leadership.
Okay. And also, you've been playing hockey since you were 6 years old. So how has this definition kind of developed for you over time? And if so, who are some of the leaders that you've seen in your life, people that you can look up to and say, hey, I appreciate your leadership style. I love how you lead, and I want to model my leadership underneath that, or model my leadership as that.
I was, really, really, really fortunate to have grown up around my mom's younger brother there, my uncle Isaac, and he's a soccer player actually, and now he's a high school teacher. And nice. Man, he's done so much for me, and just the way he treats people with the respect, his kindness, his outlook on life, his work ethic, how determined he is in everything he does. He was just one of my biggest role models growing up. And I was just super fortunate to have somebody like him in my life, and still do. So I would say him. Obviously, I have my dad, my mom, my uncles. I was just surrounded by great people growing up, and I think that's what really kind of shaped me into the person I am today.
Honestly, that I feel like that just reinforces the idea that you need a solid community. You've mentioned yourself that you've been fortunate to have your family around you to be that for you. And I think we can appreciate the reality that that's not the case for everybody, right? So for everybody listening, go find people that you trust, people that you know are heading where you want to go. Go ask questions, go be a sponge. This is something that I talk to my wife about all the time. I talk to my youth group all the time. Like, hey, be a sponge. You got to go. You have to, you think of a dry sponge, you put it under a sink, right? You put it under the tap. And now it's filling up with water, but all the excess is draining out. You don't have to take everything from everybody, but just take what's important and take the pieces of other people that you want to help you grow, right? And that is your community. Those are the people that want to see you succeed, that are going to tell you the truth no matter how hard it is, that are going to also be there when you fall so you can help pick you back up, right? So it's important. Shout out your family. Shout out Uncle Isaac. And first of all, you're a high school teacher, sir. Salute to you, because them kids are crazy. But anyway,
yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
It's awesome,
I couldn't agree more with what you said there about surrounding yourself around good people. And sometimes you might have a close friend, but they might be going down kind of the wrong path there, and it's really tough. But sometimes if you can't try and help them, I guess. If you can't bring them on that same path, I guess, that you're on, it's really tough. But sometimes you have to let them go. You have to let it go, and it's really, really difficult. But at the end of the day, you have to look out for yourself. As much as that may sound selfish, and it's very, very difficult. You do all you can to try and help them, but at the end of the day, it's your life, and you have to focus on yourself at the end of the day, and your family and your close friends.
Yeah. It's two things. I actually heard something similar to that a few years ago, and it stuck with me because I never thought I'd see this person say this. Saw an interview with Snoop Dogg. And I don't know who was interviewing him, but they were talking about growth. He was talking about growth, and he was saying, when as you're growing up, you're like this with people, right? And eventually your life is gonna go like this, and you're gonna keep rising. Either they rise with you, or they're gonna start pulling you down. It can't be either or. So at some point, it's unfortunate, but you have to cut that tie. And the second thing is, I've always said, and it's people kind of give me a weird look when I say this, but I say the most selfless thing to do is to be selfish. What I mean by that is you have to be able to work on yourself. You have to be able to find that place or find something to help fill you, because if you are empty, you can't pour out into others.
No, 100%.
I know what you mean. Like you have to be able to be self-sustaining in order to help others. If you're not 100%, you can give 100%, but if your 100% is like 1%, you're not really doing too much. You know what I'm saying? It's difficult, but these are things that we have to kind of truly sit and think about, because it's so important to be able to be sustainable and be able to kind of keep pushing forward, because that's how we move forward as a society. We have to help other people, but if you're dead, you can't really do much for
exactly
people, right? So no,
that's the biggest thing.
That's great. Absolutely. Okay, so let's just jump forward even more. When were you drafted? Were you drafted? When were you picked up by Charlotte?
So I was drafted 87th overall in 2020. So that was kind of when all that stuff with COVID happened, and so our season was cut short. There was no playoffs. And I mean, we all lived through it. It was a really, really, really weird time for a lot of people, really difficult time. And that was one of the most important years, I think, of my life up to date, because before that, I really was kind of thinking like, man, like, I don't know, with this hockey stuff, like it's hard. Rinks were closed. I didn't have anywhere to skate, nowhere to play. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know what's going to happen now. And I kind of was losing a little bit of passion for the game. And so I had to do a lot of self-reflecting and a lot of maturing. I believe I was like 17 years old at the time. And yeah, no, I could get into great detail about that. And
Yeah.
within talking to my parents, I definitely started writing a lot of stuff down, goals that I
That's
wanted
good.
to accomplish, and it kind of just took off from there.
I think that's actually really important, because I think from an outside perspective, athletes are looked at maybe subconsciously, but I do know there are some people that see it consciously. But for the majority of people, I think in their mind, athletes are robots.
Yeah.
That they clock in, clock out. There's no humanity there. There's really, you have to play this perfect role. You have to love your sport all the time, and you have to just, for lack of a better term, just be perfect. But I think the reality of it is, at some point, our gain becomes work. And our game becomes cumbersome and tedious, and things that we don't want to do. I think people don't realize the hours and sacrifice that goes into playing your game at a high level. Like, yes, at the end of the day, it is a game, and there's a lot of the noise from the outside doesn't matter. But truthfully, the work that you choose to put in to play your game, it's a lot, and it can really bear down on somebody. Like you said, you were starting to lose some of the passion for it, and at that time. And do you think COVID had something to do with that? COVID had a part to play in you losing some of that passion, not being able to go skate or play?
I definitely think so. Not being able to go back on the ice, and my draft year, unfortunately, I had a decent year, but not the year I was expected to have. There's a lot of pressure involved, and it's not like other sports where, in basketball, you go to college, you declare, for the draft after a few years if you feel you're ready. Same thing with the NFL. But I guess the NHL is kind of like baseball, where you get drafted, I guess, out of high school. You're 17, 18 years old.
Wow. Okay.
And so I was in grade 12. You're trying to balance out school, and you're trying to focus on your hockey, obviously, as much as possible. And I found that I wasn't quite mature enough yet, I guess, at that point to have a successful season. And so that was pretty difficult. And I think I used that kind of COVID time period to really self-reflect and mature and grow as a person. I had nothing but time, obviously, with everything being shut down. So that's why I talked about that kind of time span being super, super crucial for me at this point in my life.
That's actually so important. One, I didn't realize that NHL players were typically drafted right out of high school. I think that's kind of incredible. But you're right. Like, I think of some NBA players or some NCAA players, because that's the mindset that I understand. And I think of, the one and dones, the guys who go to university for a year. They have an amazing year, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to the NBA. It's like, okay, cool. They go to the NBA, and now you're handing a kid who is, some of them come from very unfortunate situations, and now you're handing them millions of dollars. The maturity is not necessarily
there. Not at all.
Right? How are they going to handle that? Right? And I think of some others. Just people in sport. You expect let's be honest, a child, a young adult to step into a professional league and act accordingly. Sure, but like, yes, the expectation is there. Like, that is professional, but like, we have to realize that the maturity level is not always going to be there, and you need to, again, surround yourself with a community of people that are going to help uplift that person. Again, you need there's a lot that goes into it, and I don't think people understand the toll it takes on someone's mental health, on someone's passions, on someone's just growth in general.
Yeah. No, it really, really does. And I feel for the generation of athletes coming up, it's not like it was with athletes in the 80s and 90s. There wasn't as big of a hype around the player. There wasn't social media. There wasn't, I guess young kids at 15, being labeled the next superstar all over social media and having
Yeah.
all that pressure. And
Yeah.
I just saw a story the other day. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mikey Williams, basketball player, and how
Yeah.
he's just been
Yeah.
booked on charges, and
Yeah.
he's
With armed
for
robbery. Yeah.
yeah, and he's like 17 years old, I guess, which is super, super unfortunate. But I mean, he's, I guess, an example of a kid who had lots of fame, sponsorships, hype at a young age, and obviously the pressure kind of got to him before he even went to college, which is, very, very
Yeah.
unfortunate to see. But it happens with lots and lots of young athletes. They have that social media kind of distraction aspect, and especially
Yeah.
for the kids who make it into their big leagues at a young age, you have, there's guys who want to go out and party. So you got the substance abuse. They develop, addictions to different things. And so I think being super, super mentally strong and leaning on family and being very disciplined with yourself at a kind of a younger age will really help set you up, I guess, through your kind of early 20s, late teens, early 20s, so you don't kind of go crashing down.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, is this conversation about sponsorships and getting the bag and these NIL deals, the name, image, and likeness deals, where now, well, I guess people like Mikey, high school players are getting paid, and the NCAA players are also getting paid because of their name, image, and likeness, which truthfully, rightfully so, it's about time, because the NCAA has made money
for a long time.
These people. Absolutely. But then the other side of it is, like, these players are now making so much more money than they have ever made. And it like we mentioned before, you're expecting a child to handle all this money when they previously had none of it. Right?
And that's a perfect example. It's like Zion Williamson, in high school, all the hype around him, he made $50 million before he played one NBA game.
That's nuts.
And it's crazy to think. And so when you're a young guy and you have all that money, and the first thing you think is like, oh my God, like, I'm going to go buy a Rolls Royce or something. I'm going to go gamble a little bit. I'm going to go buy these, I'm going to buy like 20 pairs of Dunks. I'm going to go crazy. And then sooner or later, you look at your bank account and you're like, oh my God, how did I just blow through all that money? It happened with Allen Iverson. Fortunately enough, his agent had a contract signed for after he was retired. But that's not the case for everyone. And unfortunately for a lot of NFL players and some NBA players and even some hockey players, it's pretty difficult to see some of those guys and where they end up at the end of their careers.
Absolutely. And I just heard, I'm not sure if you watched any of the March Madness, the NCAA March Madness this year, but LSU and Iowa just played on the women's side, just played there in the final, and absolutely, it was an amazing game. I think the viewership on that was about 9.9 million.
Biggest
people.
It's ever been.
Yeah, and honestly, bro, yes, it deserved, because that game was phenomenal. The hype around LSU and Iowa, Caitlin Clark, generational type player. She's phenomenal. And then LSU just with Alexis Morris, with Flau'jae Johnson, with Angel Reese, with that entire squad, and their coach, they're a phenomenal team. I just heard an interview that Angel Reese and Flau'jae gave, saying how they're in no rush to go to WNBA, because I think Angel was saying that she's making more money through her NIL deals than she would as a professional athlete.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I mean, we could really get deep into the conversation about like getting women paid and all that kind of stuff, because like those women need to be paid. The WNBA needs to be paid. But that's a conversation for another day, because we can get heated and passionate. But it's crazy to me that the amount of money that a college player is making is more than a professional athlete.
Yeah,
that's nuts to me. On the other side of that conversation is the fact that she's staying in school longer. That kind of puts a smile on my face. I'm like, go to school, get your education, do your thing, but make it worth it. You know what I mean? But that's all of that. It's just nuts, the amount of money going out there. I don't want to speak into people's pockets or anything, but it's just crazy.
No, I agree.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day too, it's like I feel like people and spectators, fans, no athlete wants to have a bad game, and they don't do it on purpose. It happens, and we're all human. Obviously, athletes, they're fortunate enough to do something, a lot of money doing it. So there's absolutely no complaints there, but there is a ton of work and sacrifice put into it.
Yes.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Absolutely.
And they're always giving it their all when they go out the court, ice rink, field. They're always, doing the best they can. And it's a shame sometimes to see how some of them are treated in the media. And so that's one thing that I've tried not to do, is look at social media, just block out the best of the best in hockey anyways. They really, really don't pay attention to media. Like Connor McDavid doesn't care about what anybody says in the media. All he cares about is what's going on within his team.
Yeah.
And day to day.
Yeah.
And I think that's how every athlete should kind of look at how that they approach their seasons and game to game.
Absolutely. Just kind of speaking to that, Nathan Rourke, who played up here at BC Lions for a year, and then 2 years, and then he just signed a contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. During his season, he gets off social media. He's like, I'm not looking at anything. I refuse to do it. He doesn't want to hear anything about on social media, because I've known the kid for a while, and so going on, like, I go on social media and I see what everybody says about it, and I get defensive, and I want to jump in the comments and say things. I'm like, no, that's not your job. Leave it alone. So it's interesting to see what all the noise that comes from people who don't understand what it's like to be at that level.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's so important to forget about that kind of stuff and focus on the day to day, because like you said, it's a lot of work to get to that point.
Oh, it's so much work. It really, really is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break to shout out some sponsors and get some bills paid.
Yeah, no, sounds good.
Special shout out to Roundball Basketball, a twofold grassroots entity that not only provides the all-around basketball experience for all athletes of all skill sets, but also uses the game as a platform to impact its community. Contact them at roundball.bc on Instagram to get involved. The Washington Kids Foundation and Game Ready facility has provided a safe place for children and youth to develop and pursue their goals and dreams. The high-level coaches comprised of current and former pro, Olympic and university coaches, and athletes provide a supportive and competitive environment for each individual to be challenged in order to reach new personal bests. The Game Ready and Washington Kids Foundation journey of development ensures the path includes growth of character, leadership, and passion. All attributes that are valued through every stage of life. So there's a conversation going on in the basketball culture, truthfully in the NBA, about vets, about the veterans, people who have players who have been on a team or players who have been in the league for a significant number of years. And one really big name that comes up a lot of time is Udonis Haslem. He is about to retire from the NBA. He played 20 seasons in the NBA, all for the Miami Heat, if I'm not mistaken. And, the past few years, he didn't really play much, because there's other players, talented players, players who are faster, shoot better, whatever it is. But him on the roster really solidified their culture and really helped bring up the younger players, because there was a leader who has been there, done that, and knows what to do. I don't know too much about hockey culture, but are veterans a big thing in hockey? Do you have teammates who have been around the league for a number of years who can really mentor and bring up the younger players?
I mean, veterans can be, make or break it kind of aspect, I guess, of the team, with young guys. Again, super fortunate my first year pro
Yeah.
to have the older guys that I've had on my team that have played in the NHL. Some have played over 500 games, and they're still playing now, and they almost feel like, obviously they're still getting paid, but they also feel like it's kind of their job to help, I guess, the younger guys. They really, really, always checking in on us, advice, anything we need, what to do, how to balance everyday life, maybe different suggestions for hobbies outside of the rink, because it's really weird. Like, I mean, I remember back in high school, was go to the rink, you're there for probably about 4 hours, do your workouts, and then you go home, do your schoolwork. Now at pro, you're done with school, you're making money, you go to the rink, you're only there for probably a couple hours, you practice, work out, and it's like, okay, what do I do now? Right? You don't have a game that night, and sometimes some guys can get into trouble. So
it's so easy to.
It's really easy to. So it's about finding a balance, finding something else you enjoy, and just staying on the right track, and knowing what you're there for, what you want to accomplish. But I going back to it, vets are make it or break it. They really can change the trajectory of a young player's career.
Absolutely. Who were some of the vets that kind of you looked up to when you got drafted?
I mean, when I got drafted, I was fortunate enough to meet some guys in Florida there. I guess Patrick Hornfist is one player. He's had a tough years this season with an injury, but he's still with the team, and he's there as kind of like a support guy. He really pushes everybody in practice. He motivates the guys. I mean, the list could go on. There's so many older guys there. Within my team, our captain, Zach Dalpe, who's from Ontario, he was huge this year for me, helping out my roommate and I, who are both 20 years old. This year, we were the only rookies on the team, really.
Wow.
And another one is Riley Nash. He played over 700 NHL games, so he's been around. He knows the game really well, and the list could go on. But I was just really, really fortunate enough to have that kind of tight core of vets to really guide me my first pro season.
And what are some of the things that you can kind of take away from those vets that you can see in yourself and you develop in yourself, but also two, you can also pour into some other younger players, because you're only 20, but you were drafted in 2020, so you've been around for 3 years now, and so how can you pour into some of the other players?
I mean, I guess as a younger guy, you don't really kind of know your place too much in the dressing room at the start. Obviously, you don't want to talk too much. You want to kind of just, like you said, be a sponge. You want to learn from them. You want to listen. You want to watch what they do, their routines, and how they get prepared. And I think just kind of watching what they do and implementing that into kind of your own, I guess, system and what works for you to get yourself as ready as you can be for a game. I think that's definitely huge. And there's, other young guys on the team as well. they'll take advice from each other. We take advice from each other on the daily. They might be better at something that, I'm not as good at, and I might be better in one aspect of the game than they are. And we kind of use that to, I guess, build each other up and help each other move forward. Because that's one thing that I love about playing a team sport is you always have guys to, lean on for advice and for help. And that's why I love it so much.
That's awesome, man. That's really great. What kind of challenges have you had to face with your time with your teams?
I mean, this year, perfect example. I main camp in Florida, right before I guess main camp, I ended up getting a concussion. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even have a chance to even try and make the team now. So I ended up kind of practicing with them when I did get better, and then I made my way down to Charlotte for the start of the season. I was, trying to figure out my pro game. Things started to kind of pick up for me a little bit there, and then boom, off of a face-off, skate comes up, slices me, barely missed my MCL. I still ended up missing about a month. So I'm like, oh my God, wow. I'm out. I'm out for a month. This sucks. Rehab, come back, mentally strong. You got to be mentally strong. Living away from.
You have to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm living on the east coast of the U.S. My home's in Vancouver. I'm 20 years old at the time here. Just turned 21, but I'm a 20-year-old kid. I'm living with my roommate who's also 20 years old, and we're just kind of finding our way together. And I'm there. My knee's all messed up, so I eventually made my way back. And then, recently I just fractured my ankle. I came back for about 10 games. So it was kind of one injury led right to the other. And I wasn't really too upset about it. I have a little tattoo on the inside of my arm, and it's Amor Fati. And so basically the saying is embrace your fate.
Okay.
And so what that kind of means is whatever happens in life, you just have to keep rolling with the punches no matter what. You never want.
Yeah.
You always want to keep going, and you always want to look at the positive side of things. And it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I feel like once you train your mind to get to that point, it's, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely. No, that's actually really cool. What's the phrase again? Amor Fati?
Amor Fati. So it's AMOR and then FATI. Yeah. And so I got it tattooed. I wasn't a huge tattoo person, but I figured having that on the inside of my arm where I'm able to look at it and kind of remind myself, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I also have my family's initials underneath to know that they always have my back. Really cool. And that's helped me.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I have on my left side of my chest, I have my favorite Bible verse. It's from James chapter 1 verse 2. It's consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. And that for me is like, you're going to go through whatever. You're going to go through trials and tribulations in life, but like you can't go into it with the mentality like, oh, this sucks. Why is it happening to me? You have to see it as, okay, I am going through this, and how can I grow from this? Because the next verse, actually, just didn't have space on my chest to get it, was what is because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And it's like, yes, I'm going to go through this, but I can either fold or I can double down and keep my faith where it needs to be, and that will help produce the perseverance. Like God never said life is going to be easy; it's going to be tough, right? And so, but being able to have that perseverance, like I'm going to be able to kind of stretch my limits a little bit more. I can handle a little bit more. I have more experience. I'm able to kind of go through situations and have wisdom from it. That way, the next time, or if I see someone else going through something similar, I'm like, hey, I can speak to this now, right? So I like that. I like that. I have a few more tattoos that for me just kind of they mean a lot for me. I'm a person that one, I love tattoos. I think the art is incredible, but I really want my tattoos to mean something. Yeah. And so if I don't have the idea if I have the idea, I want to have it for a while to know that I really want it, and then we'll, if money's there, then we'll see if we can get it. But anyway, that's just a little bit about my tattoo, because I think they're kind of similar. I think that's really cool.
That's awesome. And like you said there too, you're like, it's permanent. It's gonna be there, for the rest of your life, and you really, really want it to be meaningful. And so that's why I got it, because I'm like, this every time something happens that it's not in my favor, it's not going my way. I know I can look at that and remind myself to roll with the punches, keep moving forward, and nobody's, at the end of the day, nobody's going to feel sorry for you, and it's up to you to lift yourself up and keep on moving forward.
Life goes on. Life truly goes on. It can't just stop for you.
No.
As much as we want to think, it's interesting, because I've had this conversation with people. I think we're in this very strange paradox, whereas as individual we are so important to whatever story. We are the main character in our story. Being honest,
yeah, we are. Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, who are you? It's weird paradox where it's like you matter so much, but at the same time it's like you don't. The world's going to keep going.
The world always keeps going.
It's always going to keep going, and we have to be able to not only be okay with that, because it will drive you crazy when you see people keep moving on when your world has stopped, but understand that you still have worth, and you still have value, and you can still contribute to the overall story that is humanity.
I agree with that, and that's perfect. Description of I guess what kind of everybody needs to have that outlook on life is, the moment you stop moving that's when you start to lose. You lose faith, you start to lose hope, and that can lead you down a pretty dark path there. And so, if you keep on moving, you keep on, I guess, striving for greatness, and
absolutely,
sky's the limit.
Shout out LeBron James, strive for greatness.
Yeah, shout out to LeBron.
Oh gosh. Okay, so how has your leadership kind of developed over your years in the league?
So last year, I guess I was 19. It was my last year of junior hockey. I ended up getting traded. It was just after the World Juniors. So World Juniors, it was in Edmonton, got canceled because of COVID. This was 2021 going into 2022. I get traded from Vancouver to Edmonton. So I'm living away from home now. Fortunately enough, I was able to live with one of my teammates who I had known and played against before, and I'd played with. So that was really, really fun. And that season, we ended up winning the championship.
Nice.
We had an older core of guys, and I think I kind of put me into like a position where I was able to kind of be a leader. I was able to kind of look out for some of the young guys, and I even myself, I still consider myself a kid at 19, and so I was still learning on kind of how to be one of the older guys in the dressing room for once. It was a little different, but yeah. Even in Vancouver, actually, before I got traded from Edmonton, I was the captain of the team, and I didn't even necessarily want to be. I kind of told our coach and our general manager, I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I don't feel like I could be the captain. I'd rather just kind of focus on myself and, just help the team out in any way I can. They're like, no, like, you need to be our captain. And I, kind of just took that, that role on, and I tried to do the best I could. And, there was definitely some mistakes I made, but I also thought I did some good things. And at the end of the day, I'm only human, and I can just learn from those mistakes and move on.
Absolutely. That's actually an interesting kind of point you brought up. You said that you're the coach and the GM of the team kind of was like, no, we need you to be the captain. As someone who doesn't feel ready to kind of take that role of captain, or someone who is kind of thrown into a leadership position, how do you handle that? How do you kind of take the reins and say, okay, it's time?
It was our captain the previous season was the one who kind of recommended I should be the captain. And it's because of the season before COVID, we ended up having like a bubble. So we lived in a hotel for like 60 days.
Okay.
And we had like a 24 game season. So again, I was away from home. Mom misses me.
Wow.
I'm stressed out, but I'm happy to be playing again. Right. So he saw me and how much I had matured over the years of playing. He's like, holy crap, you're 18 now. And I saw like you've kind of matured a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I really focused over this time period of not playing and everything, blah, blah, blah. I've tried to work on maturity. And so within that, he ended up recommending me to be captain, I guess, for the following season. So I definitely talked to him, asked him for some advice. I was like, what should I do? What are things? Should I call meetings, check in on guys, see how they're doing? And so it was just a few things like that. And also I was fortunate enough to have one of my best friends on the team be one of my assistant captains.
Nice.
It was kind of more of like a team kind of aspect there, I guess, where we kind of did it together. I didn't really consider it. I thought we were co-captains in my eyes. And I definitely learned a lot that year. I learned kind of how to be a leader. I learned from my mistakes on how to be a lot more patient with guys. And I think in the end, I'm a lot better off for it.
That's so important to be able to kind of reflect and look back on situations that in your heart you knew you weren't necessarily ready for, but being able to take over and grow as you're in that position, and then look back like, hey, okay, I did this well, did this not so well, but I'm able to kind of grow in those situations. I think that's super important. That's good. That's really good. That's really good. What has been the biggest challenge for you adjusting to the professional game? Professional life, I should say.
Yeah, adjusting to the professional life. Where do I start? I would say the biggest thing is, you want to keep your apartment clean because, you live in a clean area, your mind's going to be clean. You're just going to be thinking a lot more clearly. You're going to be happy. You come back from the rink, you got a nice clean area. But I'd say one of the biggest things to start off is cooking. Obviously, I don't have mama making me, breakfast, lunch, and dinner anymore. So that's what.
Do you cook? Can you cook well?
Decently well. Yeah, like I'm no Gordon Ramsay, but I get by. And
okay.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's a lot of temptation around. You go to the grocery store, you're like, okay, I got all my vegetables, I got my beef, whatever, everything else, chicken. And then, you go to the snack aisle, you see, oh my God, there's chips, there's Oreos, there's, so on and so forth. And I think it's just having that discipline to kind of, realize you're an athlete and you want to fuel your body with the right stuff. And so you just got to kind of walk by all that. And I think that was one thing that I've been really good with here. Another thing is, hobbies. Trying to find something that keeps your mind going outside of the rink, that's good for your brain, getting outside. Fortunate enough, living in Charlotte, it's beautiful weather down there, so you can be outside a lot. You can go for walks. But yeah, no, I would say just like the pro life is we play 72 games. I haven't really played that much hockey in one season before. Obviously, I didn't play anywhere close to that with the injuries, but just being on the road too, the travel and our schedule, it's difficult. You're playing against men now. It's no longer teenagers. These guys are trying to feed their families. It's a different type of game once you get to pro. So the speed, I guess the physicality is definitely something that it's a little bit of an adjustment period, but I felt that I kind of adjusted pretty quickly, and I was happy with myself for that.
No, I think that's super important. I think being able to want to make that adjustment is crucial because, like you said, there are people literally trying to feed their families,
Yeah.
and you are not one of those people. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, you got to do what you got to do. One thing you mentioned, just briefly. Oh my gosh, I just forgot what you said. Before you mentioned the schedule and everything.
It was about grocery
Oh my,
shopping, maybe?
no, just after grocery shopping.
Oh, just after grocery shopping, could have been hobbies, maybe. Oh,
Yes, that's
yeah,
the one. Hobbies. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So you mentioned having hobbies outside of hockey, right? And
Hmm.
it's an interesting conversation because you'll have you'll have people that say, no, I'm obsessed with, basketball player, for example, I'm obsessed with the gym. I'm in there all the time. I go 2-3 times a day to put up shots. I'm always thinking about basketball. I eat, breathe, and sleep basketball. I'm like, why? That's not to me that yes, I get it. You want to be the greatest. You want to achieve levels of greatness that you haven't achieved before. But I also know myself, and that is the easiest way to burn out.
Easiest way.
You know what I'm saying? Like I tell you all
100%.
the time, like you need to find things that get your mind off of whatever you're putting your all into.
Yeah.
Right? Like you absolutely have to, because you're going to get to the point where it's going to become a chore. It's going to become boring. It's going to become all you think about, and your personality now becomes this. And now you can't have conversations with other people about whatever because you don't know anything else.
Yeah.
That's just an extreme example, but I mean, is that kind of what you see?
I mean, that's perfect that you mentioned that, because one of our vets, Anthony Botetto, he's an amazing guy, and it's kind of funny too because at the rink we have this big TV in our lounge, and guys will have hockey on, and every day he walks by, he's like, why the f you guys have why do you have hockey on? He's like, well, we come to the rink every day. It's hockey all the time. We play hockey. We're practicing, and then you guys want
Yeah.
to watch hockey. He's like, put on basketball, baseball. He's like, anything, a movie. He's like, why are you guys always watching hockey? And you know what? He's right though. At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
you go back and you watch your own film and stuff, but it's like, experience something else.
Mm-hmm.
Not too long ago, because the weather was nice, my roommate and I called up two of our other teammates, and we went to a court, bought a basketball, played some 2-on-2. We didn't want to go too
Nice.
hard. We got our ankles. We got to watch out
Yeah.
for our
Yeah.
ankles. And no, it was kind of funny though. We're getting, competitive a little bit because we're athletes,
Mm-hmm.
and, I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
drive to the paint. My jump shot's not falling. I haven't played a whole lot of basketball since I was in grade 9. And no, I really, really love basketball though. So
Mm-hmm.
it's something I enjoy playing. I love going to the gym and shooting around. I played in the summer league back in grade 9
Nice.
in Richmond, and that was a blast. And I remember though, my parents ended up coming to watch me. They surprised me, came to one game.
Oh, it's really
I
cool.
Yeah, but it was tough because I usually really, really well, but for some reason when they came, I was like all nervous, even though it was like a summer league
Oh, yeah.
thing, and I had
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
6 points maybe, and I was just missing layups and stuff, and I was like, I never want to play again now. I'm sick of the hockey. I'm done with basketball. Yeah,
Oh,
but
that's fun though. That's fun.
yeah, no, but
Yeah.
I like all the time in the summer because my cousin and I, who's from Richmond, are the same age, so we'd shoot hoops all day long in the summer in his
Mm-hmm.
driveway. He had a rim
Mm-hmm.
there. My uncle, diehard basketball fan. My cousin there, he's born on July 23rd. His name's
Okay.
Jordan.
Of course it is.
Yeah, of course it is. So
Nice.
like, yeah, so that side of the family, like they love basketball. My uncle is a huge basketball guy. He's played, I mean, he's torn both of his Achilles playing. Like
Ooh.
yeah, like he's played a lot of basketball, and he kind of
Mm-hmm.
showed me how to fix my jumper. And I was
Nice.
actually, I was a pretty good basketball player for a little while, but obviously hockey was my main sport. I wanted to focus on
Mm-hmm.
that, but no, I really love basketball too.
Nice.
Yeah, people would ask me kind of like what my favorite player was, and they're all kind of like, "What?" when I say it, but I said De'Aaron Fox, and you might be
Okay.
like, "What?" Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hey,
Sacramento
hey,
Kings.
De'Aaron Fox he's been putting in work this season.
Yeah, like he's
Yeah,
I feel like he's an underrated player, and
he
I
is.
don't know,
He
like
is.
people are like, "What? You like a left-handed shooter, De'Aaron Fox? What? Sacramento? What?" I'm like, I don't know. I like the way he
You know what I
plays.
think it is. You know what I think it is. I think it's because they are what there's four teams in California, and Sacramento is one of them. And so you have the Lakers, you have the
Yeah,
Showtime Lakers, you have the Clippers who are making so much noise, and then you have the Golden State Warriors. Like
the dynasty.
exactly, everybody is focusing on those three, and then you have Sacramento.
Nobody cares
Right?
about
Like, no
Sacramento.
one, nobody cares. Nobody cares. That's the
No,
reality of it. And so quietly, that team with Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, they're putting in work.
they
They
are.
and
They grind.
they've quietly surprised the entire NBA.
Hmm.
And so now they're in playoffs. And I have high hopes for them. I really do have high hopes for
I
them.
do as
So I don't
well.
blame you.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't
so
blame you
like
at all, man.
yeah, so like and that's another thing that I like to touch on is like I loved other stuff outside of hockey as well. Like
Yes,
so I'm not
correct.
just like a robot. I'm not just like,
Yeah,
oh, everything hockey, hockey, hockey. Like I
yeah.
was a diehard Green Bay Packers fan like most of my
Mm,
life. Like Aaron
yes.
Rodgers. I there's a
Yeah.
picture of me as a toddler with a Green Bay Packers jersey on.
Nice.
Unfortunately, things haven't gone our way the past couple of seasons, and Aaron's leaving. And
Hmm.
what's kind of funny was I was like, I'm done with Green Bay. I got to pick a new team. We were on the road, and I called up one of my buddies who goes to Manhattan College. I said, "Hey, are you free?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, let's go to a Jets game." So we go to a Jets game. I'm like, bought a hoodie. I'm like, I think I'm gonna be a Jets fan now. And it turns out Aaron
Oh,
Rodgers might be going to the Jets. So
it's
it's
fate.
gonna, it's fate.
Embrace your fate. Embrace
Yeah.
your fate.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so I always found it was kind of nice to have conversations with people about different sports. It's just nice to have
Hmm.
that kind of, I guess, I can talk basketball, I can talk football,
Yeah.
hockey, baseball. I've kind of recently gotten into a little bit, but it's just nice to be well-rounded. And even outside
Yes.
of sports,
Yeah.
um, I feel like I can hold a conversation with people on a lot of different topics, which, I'm really happy about.
Yeah. No, those are very important skills to have. Honestly, I think being able to be a conversationalist
Yeah.
it goes such a long way. Like
Oh, it does.
having social skills, having face to face conversations. Yeah, needs to happen.
It
Absolutely needs to
does.
happen. That's awesome. Okay, so we are coming to the end of our conversation here, and I just kind of have a few more questions. Well, one more question really that I want you to kind of reflect on from your perspective of current professional athletes. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Hmm.
Be it in high school, be it even younger than that, whatever it is. What advice would you give?
That's a really good question. One piece of advice I could give my younger self. I think honestly at the end of the day, I wish I had told my younger self around 15, 16, 17, around that age, to not put so much pressure on myself because at the end
Mm,
of the day, I was still a kid and I was trying to rush into being an adult with all
hmm.
these expectations around me. And with expectation, comes responsibility. And,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, there's going to be kids who are younger than you looking up to you. And I didn't even realize it, but at high school, there was kids in grade 8, 9, 10 who were looking up to me and I hadn't even realized it. So it's just about being the best person you can be and not putting
Yeah.
so much pressure on yourself. At the end of the day, I know it sounds cliche, but all you can really do is put the work in and let the results like,
Yeah.
carry on.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can only do, what you're capable of. You work your hardest and you leave everything out there and that's all you can do
Hmm.
and you don't You don't dwell on it. You don't think about it. Whatever's in the past, you have to leave it in the past.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, one of my best friends, Duncan Cross, has once we had a school talk at a school in Ontario, and he said to the group, hey, you know, there's only two things you can control in this life. You can control how you act and how you react. And I've carried that with me. But then actually talked to him not too long ago. We did a podcast episode together, and he's like, you know, I'm going to recant my statements and I'm going to adjust it. He said, you can only control how you act and how you respond. I was like, that's big. That's big because, you know, reacting kind of you know, it implies that you're going off the cuff and you're not thinking, but responding means you have thought out what you're doing. And so like you said, you can only control the work you put in. You can only control how you're acting in different situations. But you can't control how people respond to it. You can't control people's perspectives on it. That's on them. Right. So what you do is what you control. Right. Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, had he did an interview a few years ago, obviously. And he talked about being an athlete, being a father, and this, that, and the third. And what he said was, I give 100% at everything I do. When I go to the gym, I put 100% in at the gym. When I go home, I put 100% in at home. I'm 100% present wherever I am. And I think that's so important, right? Like, excuse me. And it goes a long ways also, like we previously talked about, like, to do things outside of your sport. If you are, you know, passionate about cooking or anime or people or, you know, photography or whatever it is, like, put 100% in that. Especially when you're stepping away from your main thing, put 100% in at whatever you're doing and let the chips fall as they may. Because that's all you can really control, is how you act and how you respond.
I couldn't agree more with what you just said there. And with Kobe too, I'm not 100% sure if this was a Kobe quote. I think it was though, but people always ask Kobe, like, even if he was, or you know what? It might have been Michael Jordan actually.
Okay.
And it was kind of like something along the lines like, Michael, like, when you're sick or you're like hurt, like, why are you still playing? And he's like, well, what about the people who came to watch Michael Jordan? He's like, I'm a little sick. You know, my elbows hurt me a little bit. I'm just going to sit out. People work all year long saving up money just to come to one game, and I'm not on the court.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
you know, it's like, I couldn't agree more with that. And it just shows how much those guys care. And Kobe had the same mentality. I mean, he idolized Michael. And Kobe was, you know, absolutely one of the greats. And so I think, you know, people, you know, you can take anything you want from them, and you can implement it into your own life. And I think that's another huge thing.
That's really big. That is really big. Okay. Well, before I let you go, I have, you know, a couple big hitting questions. First one, LeBron or Michael?
My uncle's gonna hate me for this, but I'm gonna have to go with LeBron.
Yes,
he has the most points all time.
How you deny that? How you deny it? He's been to how many NBA finals? Yes, he has a losing record in NBA finals. But are we going to fight somebody, or going to say something, say bad about them, even though they've won so much more to get there?
Yeah,
that's just me.
And I'm a huge Michael fan, but like me, I watched the series where they were down 3-1, their backs against the wall, and LeBron carried them back and beat that unbelievable Golden State team down 3-1 and brought it back to Cleveland.
And that was the craziest. Did he lead that entire series, both teams, in points, rebounds, and assists?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's like, what human being does that? Anyway. Okay. Sushi or pizza?
I'm gonna have to go with sushi.
I appreciate you, my boy. I really do. Okay, driving or flying?
Ooh. Like if I had to drive or fly a plane?
Or either or. If you're passionate in the car or you're passionate in the plane, either or.
Ooh. You know what? I'm gonna have to go with driving. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Being in a plane, I love looking out at the sky and stuff, but sometimes I can get way too like claustrophobic.
Fair
Like
enough.
sitting,
Fair enough.
you know what? I'll say flying if I have an aisle seat.
Okay. All right.
A little more leg
ILC.
room.
Interesting. Fair. You know, I get that. Absolutely. Okay. Last question. If you could listen to any album, no skips, what would it be?
Ooh. Oh my God. Oh, that's so tough. Ooh. Probably Scorpion.
Okay. Drake.
Probably Scorpion by Drake.
That's a big album. That's a big
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
What was
There's
that?
so
Was that
many other, but
summer 2016 that came out? 16,
yeah.
17? No.
No, it's
19.
2019. 2019.
Yeah,
Yeah,
2019.
yeah,
Yeah, the year the Raptors won the championship.
yeah. It
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
yeah, the year the Raptors won, yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I had one more question I can't remember, but you know it's fine, totally fine. Okay. In now got last piece. I'm gonna steal a segment from one of my favorite podcasts, All the Smoke with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. If you could see if anybody, one of your teammates or any other leader or someone on this podcast, who would it be? But before you answer, you have to help us get them on the show.
Oof. That's another tough one. Um, I'm trying to think.
Anybody at all. It could be also because it is the pro athlete edition this season. They have to have played or are currently playing professional sports.
Okay. Have to have played or currently playing professional sports. Hmm. Who would be really good on a podcast? I'm trying to think of somebody who's not camera shy, who's like a good talker.
So someone who has stories, someone who wants to kind of share knowledge. I'm ready for it all.
Share knowledge. That's a tough one. There's some guys that I have in mind. I'm just trying to think who would be the best. I'm trying to think of somebody I know really, really well too.
Okay.
Like really, really
Okay.
well. So I have to maybe think about it for another
That's
20
fine.
seconds here.
That's fine. You think about it, bro, and then if it comes to mind, we'll make it happen.
Okay. Huh. Oh. You know what? His name's Jalen Lipum.
Okay. Okay.
And he's turning pro
Nice.
this next season.
Okay.
100% he's going to be playing in the American Hockey League, and he's
Nice.
drafted and signed with Chicago Blackhawks. And I
Okay.
think he's a guy who's battled through adversity as well with injuries recently, and he's one of the nicest guys in the world.
That's dope. That's
Yeah.
dope. Okay. Well, if you can make that call, make that connection. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, no, well, sounds good. I appreciate your time, Shaka. Thanks for having
Of
me on.
course, man. No, I really appreciate you. How can we follow along with you? Do you have anything going on off the field, off the ice that we can help support or follow along with?
You know what? Not really. I don't really have,
Okay.
I guess, anything going on or like any sort of foundation. Not at this
Okay.
point in my life.
Okay.
Just starting out.
Yeah.
Maybe in like 5 years or something, I might
I got
have
you.
some sort of charity foundation that I want to support in any
Okay.
kind of event. But I would definitely let you know. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Absolutely, Justin, man. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate your time and the conversation that we've had has been great.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was really, really great talk. Really, really
Yes,
excited.
sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. No problem at all. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Beyond the Game podcast. We appreciate you, Justin, and everybody have a great day.
Different names for success, but we gon' taste. Keep it metal on 10, gon' be okay. Gold medals round neck, CFL rings, Bill Kings, Queens, BTG, repeat rotate.